Hey guys, we're going to talk today about the Spyderco Endura. Now, I am literally the last human being on this earth to buy this knife apparently. I was going to do a review, but in reality, what's the point? There's like 10,000 on YouTube, they're all over every forum. You know, I'm the last guy at the party and I'm not going to be cool coming in with the same old jokes that everyone else has already done. So, we're just going to do a little talk about this and kind of make this into a little bit of a talk about budget items versus higher end items and how it applies to something like this and how it comes to making your decision. As you can see, one thing you can notice too is I did buy the saber grind version. I have a ton of full flat grind knives and I just wanted a kind of saber grind to check it out. They don't get a lot of love on the internet, on the forums. Everyone kind of universally thinks that the full flat grinds are better, but hey, I'm that dork who's got to be different. So, all right. So everyone knows the knife, 3 3/4 inch VG10 blade, like 3.5 ounces. It's got a great lockup. It's got good jimping on it, great ergonomics. They're tough. They're reliable. Everybody loves them. I mean, these things are the bread and butter of YouTube. This is probably the most reviewed knife on YouTube aside from the Spyderco Tenacious, which is pretty much the same thing with just a slightly inferior steel. So, alright, now, you know me. You know I'm a budget guy. You know this whole channel is kind of built around the philosophy of not overspending. Buying things that are good quality, yet budget priced. As we know, price and quality are not always synonymous. That sometimes, people use brand name and marketing gimmicks to sell you things that are not worth what you're paying for. And is this thing worth the $60 you're going to buy it for? I think I paid like $52. I think I caught it on some like pre-Black Friday sale on Amazon. And so I think I ended up paying like $52 or so. But is it worth it? So what we're going to compare is another kind of universally loved and well-known EDC knife, the Ontario Rat. Everybody knows it. A lot of people love it. Not too many people hate it. They're about the same size blades. Different steel. You're talking AUS 8 versus the VG10. This one is, a liner lock versus the lockback design of the Spyderco. It weighs a lot more, but that's also because it's a liner lock. But overall, same size, very similar shape. Alright. This Ontario is $30. The Spyderco is $60. Is it worth it? You as a budget guy, you're looking at this and you're going to say, Bushcraft, tell me the truth. Now, everybody loves Spydercos. I love them too. I've been messing around with these things for a long time. I've just never owned a lot. And the truth of the matter is, the Spyderco isn't some magical knife. They're not magical. Just like anything else, they're not some super steel that's going to last you forever that you're never going to have to sharpen. The major difference between these two knives, to be completely and totally honest, is 2 weeks in the pocket. This will not shave hair. This will not cut paper. It will not cut cardboard. It will still have a good working edge. It will be good and serviceable, and I'll be able to do my normal EDC tasks with it. But it's not going to be razor sharp anymore. 2.5 weeks in the pocket with the Endura, it is still taking hair off my arm. It is still slicing paper very easily. It is still slicing cardboard. And I've tried to use it as much as humanly possible too, compared to what I would normally use a knife. So this has actually seen EDC plus, 20%, compared to what 2 weeks of the Rat. Now, there's your major difference. You're talking a knife that's going to be still pretty darn sharp. You're talking 99% after 2.5 weeks versus a knife that's going to be at 90% in 2 weeks. Now, what's it going to take you to get this Rat back to where the Endura is for sharpness? 5 minutes. You're talking touching it up on a high grit stone, a little bit of stropping, maybe a ceramic rod, but very, very quick. You're not talking a lot of work at all. 5 minutes. Even a very, very beginner could bring that back to that really super sharp edge. So is it worth it? Is $30 worth having to sharp 5 minutes every 2 weeks? Well, it's up to you. It's really up to how much you use it and all that. For me, I'm kind of a light EDC user, to be honest. You know, you're talking breaking down the recycling. You're talking opening some envelopes, opening mail, using it around the office for the occasional apple slicing, and maybe sharpening a pencil. You know, that kind of stuff. Nothing major. You know, I don't have a lot of use out of EDC knives, and when it comes to being in the garage, you know, working in the garage and things like that, yeah, the EDC knives don't do that kind of work. Those are the other knives I use for that kind of stuff. So I don't see a heavy use. If you're different, you may have a whole completely different philosophy on EDC use, and that's okay. But for your average ordinary guy who is just opening letters and recycling and stuff like that, the difference is really just how much you want to sharpen. You know, the VZ10, it's not some miracle steel. It still will get dull after time. It still will need sharpening. It's going to take a little bit longer in between, but that's the big thing. Do you want to pay for that? So when it comes down to it, this kind of blade, the Endura 4, it's an awesome knife. It really is. That VZ10 steel, they really do great work with it. But if you're comfortable putting this thing and sharpening a rat every couple of weeks, you're really, you know, I'm kind of struggling to find a major difference here. They're both going to do the same tasks. They're both going to be equally capable of EDC work. It's just that small difference in the steels. So there it is, guys. The Endura 4, I love the thing. The rat, I love it. But you know what? It is nice having a knife in my pocket for 2+ weeks and still having it take hair and cut like it's brand new. It is pretty awesome, I think, at least in my opinion. So take it for what it is, guys. You know, I am the last person to own an Endura, so what do I know?